Well, here we are on a rather cold December morning, taking a look back at a year gardening. But when we're looking back, we're not taking a retrospective view. We're looking at this as building foundations for a future. And that's the great thing about gardening. We don't look back on what we've done, we're looking forward to what we are able to do. So I'm going to take you right the way back to June and the start of something new. And talking of things new, at the end of this show, I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing for next year. But here we go, back to June 2020. Well, what a beautiful day. And I've just been sitting here having a little bit of a think. And the question I've been asking myself is, what is a garden? What do I actually really want from the garden? Quite a deep and meaningful question to ask myself. And I want it to be a bit of an oasis. I want it to be somewhere that I can enjoy, I can escape. And to that end, I'm going to stop on the building of the wall. I'm going to stop on the laying out of the railway, and I'm going to do a little bit of redesigning and then work on an area for me to escape so that the garden becomes an all-encompassing area. Still keep the vegetable garden going, and it'll be very, very similar to what it is now, but it's going to be more of a fantasy, more of a place I want to visit. And as we get older and we spend less of our time actually going and visiting places, the garden can become a place that we visit. So I'm going to sit down with a pen and paper and really work out what I want this to be. Welcome back to the courtyard garden, which is really taking a nice shape now. So we've got the slabs laid out in position. They're not fixed yet, but they're all in position. And the plants are growing quite nicely. Sunflowers coming on well. Strawberries are putting out runners. We've had some problems though, and this is from caterpillars. So one of these lovely pots that I planted up here, perfect one day, next day completely stripped and covered in little green and yellow hairy caterpillars. So it's not all joy when you're doing your gardening, but we've got a lot of plants growing here. So we've got two different varieties of tomatoes, we've got courgettes, we've got cucumbers, we've got our strawberries, and they're just about coming to an end now. We've got broad beans, we've got climbing beans, we've got peas, and we've also got quite an array of flowers. So at the moment I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hanging baskets. There will be another 2. There's one going to go into the corner behind me, another one here, so we're going to have 6 hanging baskets hanging around the area. And as the seasons change, we will change what we have in the baskets. Obviously we will have to change the compost, but we won't waste that compost. That'll go down into the vegetable garden and we'll use that there. Now over the next couple of days I'm finally going to be able to get the adhesive down underneath the artificial grass. That has been picking up a little bit in the wind, so we've got that held down slightly, but I'm very pleased. We've got a couple of little planting pockets in the slabs. It's nice and smooth and level, great for when Julie comes and putting the washing out, and a very comfortable place to sit in the sunshine. One thing I am going to do, I've got the water butt. If you remember, we put that in well, way back earlier this year, and I've decided I'm going to get a second water butt, and I'm going to mount it where I've got a pot of tomatoes at the moment, but I'm going to mount it next to the existing water butt, stick an overflow pipe through, into the next one. So if one water butt fills up, we're not going to waste water, it will feed into the second water butt. So we're near completion. What I am going to do along the wall facing me now, which is the house wall, I'm going to put a little picket fence against the wall just to give it that sort of country feel. Well, here I am with my Canary Island palm, and I've made a decent hole here in the ground. I've made it deeper than I need to go, and I've made it a square hole. And that is to give the roots a chance to work out rather than go round and round in a pot, and also to allow me to put some nutrients into the hole. So I'm just going to start off by piling a little bit of multi-purpose compost into the bottom there. Then I've got some rose and shrub fertiliser, just a small handful to sprinkle into the bottom of the hole. Let's just see what I like for height. So I just need to build it up just a little bit more, and I don't mind how much I have to build it up. This is giving those roots a good chance to establish themselves and a better chance for the tree to grow nicely. That's wonderful. I'm happy with that. Now let's just tap this out of the pot, and then hopefully there it comes. Now you can see we've got a reasonable amount of root on here, but it is going round. So I'm just going to loosen a couple of pieces of that out of the pot here, which is lovely. Just encourage it to spread out. Now this is going to form a really crucial part of the head of the stream. Now I have got 2 of these, and these have come from an online garden centre called U Garden, and very, very pleasingly there was an offer that was running. I mean, I only found out about the garden centre via the offer, which was in the Daily Mirror the other Saturday, and they were doing 2 of these plants for just £14.99, and I'm sure you agree with me, they're a very healthy looking plant and will be a great addition to the garden. So we'll get that worked in nicely there, and I'm going to fill the entire void that I've dug with this compost, and then the plant can then work itself through into the horrible clayey stuff that's around it. This will give it a really good chance to establish itself in the ground. Now I'm going to, as I always do when planting a tree, keep the centre lower than the surrounding ground, and this is just about it. So I'm going to keep that there. Now, because when we get the rainfall and we've got a slope on the garden, I don't want that water to disappear. I want some of the water to trap in here and stay with the tree. Now I'm going to give this a really, really, really good water now. Get it soaked in and make sure it's really, really happy. One down, another one to go. Got to start building this as well. Oh well, no rest for the wicked. Okay, so well, I've got the first 1.5–2 meters of the sand and cement laid in here now, and I've got to now sort out the fall, and this involves putting in a reservoir head at the top. Now I'm going to use a 45 litre container. It doesn't have to hold a lot of water. It has to hold some so that we can get a regular flow, and then the pipe that comes from the pump will come in there and run the flow down the stream. So that's going to be a job that I'm going to be starting very, very soon, but I really want to get the rest of this rendering done. This section here is still very, very wet, and once I've actually got the rendering down with the trowel, then I'm just giving it a brush coat, and then I'm touching it up where the liner comes through. But generally I'm very, very pleased with the effect it's going to have. Now what we're going to be doing at the end is we're going to be using some expanding foam around the top edge, and we're going to be putting some pea shingle on there, and there'll be pea shingle through the bottom of the stream as well. This will give it a very natural effect, and the plants around the edge, and this is going to have a bank up here with some lovely planting in it, and you're going to love seeing the planting. Well, I'm going to love it. You might not, but I'm going to love it, and it's going to look, to me, superb. Well, you can see now we've moved quite a lot of soil, and we're building up the bank along here. Got our Canary Island palm there, and we've got another one just up here, and they're going to grow really, really well. So the timber is ordered to make the bridge, and I've just got to level out the ground on the far side now to get everything sorted out. So yeah, all looking good, moving forwards. Well, now I'm starting to build the little boardwalk that's going to go round the pond. Got to get this in place before I actually put the liner and everything in. So I've set this to a level, got the timbers cut for the first section, and all I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put a little bit of the concrete mix that I've just made up into the holes to just give that some support. So I'm just going to pop some down in here. Make sure that's round all of the sides of this leg. Get that a good support down there. And then I'm going to do the same on this one over this side. And this is going to give me the first bit of support. Get that wedged in down here. Now once we've got these set solid tomorrow, then I'll be putting some weed suppressing membrane down once I've levelled the ground underneath. Just get this nicely down here, tap that down a little bit. It's not going to be used very much, it's just to give me access to the cold frame area, and also if I've got to do any work with the pump or the cleaning of the pond, I've got a solid place to work from. So we get that in there. We're going to let that go off, and then we'll continue. This board is going to come right the way down. It's going to run around about 2.4 metres, and then 1.8 metres across behind the pond to give me a nice solid area around it. This is set perfectly level at the moment, and it's level across all of the angles as well, so I'm very, very happy with that. And well, that's a start. All carries on, all work to do, all a bit of fun. Well, I've just been spending some time deadheading some of the plants, and a lot of these cranesbills are on there now, so we're just clearing these up, tidying, and I'm giving them quite a haircut at the moment, taking all of this off. It'll give us another season of flowering in a couple of weeks' time, and I so look forward to that, so that when we're ready to take the watercourse down the stream here, it's going to look absolutely beautiful. Now the plant itself has been sitting in some water for the last 2 hours or so, so it's ready to go into the ground. So let's go and get that. Well, here we have the Ceanothus in its pot, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab a handful of compost and just pop into the bottom of the hole. Again, I've made the hole square and approximately twice the diameter of the pot. So let's just lift this little baby out of here. Absolutely soaking, absolutely wonderful. The reason I've come into the greenhouse here is the tomato plants are getting a little bit on the large side. We've got some superb fruit on here. Let's just pull, there are tomatoes all over these plants, and we've got some higher up and a lot of green fruit on here. But what I need to do is just start to take the tops out because they're giving us too much height, and I just want to take the top out about the last growing shoot. They're actually coming up through the window here, so we need to just reduce them in size. This is going to enable the plants to put more energy into developing the fruit that is already on the trees. So we're going to just take out the tops here. God, just a few days I've not been down here for, and they're growing far too high. So we're just going to take these tops out, just down to the next leaves down. A lot of these have actually set now. And just take these tops. Too much green growing, and they're not putting their energy into the fruit. So taking these tops out, we'll do this one here as well, just down to there. It's going to enable that fruit to develop, and we'll gain the benefits of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop up, get my lavender seedlings, and we're going to transplant those into some slightly bigger pots now. Well, these are my lavender seedlings, and they are looking quite nice and healthy, but I do need to check the root to see how they're doing. So I'm just going to pop this one out, and we have got a reasonable amount of root on there. They're not in a pot bound situation, but I need to move those into a slightly better drained compost, into a larger pot for them to overwinter. These will be going alongside the stream, along the bank of the stream for next year, and that lovely smell of lavender on them, it's going to be absolutely wonderful. They'll be joining the plants are there. So I'm just going to sort out my compost mix and some pots and get these moved on. So what I've done is I've half filled these pots with a very, very gritty, easily draining compost, just half filled, so that I can then take these plants, pot them into the pots, and then I'm going to dress those with some more compost, make sure there's no air getting in around them, nicely fill those pots, and then they'll be ready just to overwinter in here. I'm going to keep them moist but not wet. And then these will be ready to grow on for next year, and I'm sure, oh, they're going to be absolutely wonderful. There is around about 150 bulbs here, so they're going into the ground where they stop, and I'm sure they're going to give me a lovely spring display next year. So we've only got a few more to go. Get those over the far side there. Get some more up that end there. This is going to be nice. Get some there. Some there. And some over there. And there's the last few there. What I'll do now is I'll get my bulb planter. Now, when we're planting our daffodils, what we're looking for is to have the same depth of soil above the bulb as the depth of the bulb. So if this is 2 inches, we want 2 inches of soil above it. And all I do is I use a bulb planter, just twist into the soil, get a nice lift. And these wonderful little tools, they hold the soil inside. I can then pop the bulb nicely down inside, squeeze the handle, and then that fills the hole above it. Well, I've been doing a little bit of design work now and changing how things are going to be looking for the garden going forward. So the existing areas that we've got here, so we've got the memory garden here and the fruits border down the side. But at the moment, all of this area here is grass, and that's where the Alomantia tree is in the centre. So the shaded area is going to remain as grass. It's just going to be a grass path with a seating area over the side here. Then we're going to have a shrub border bordering the patio here. We're going to be planting a nice rowan tree with shrubs and perennials around there in front of the memory garden. And we're going to have a summer perennial and annual border around the Amelanchier tree. We've got the rose border down the bottom here, and then we're going to have meadow grass along the bottom this side of the bridge, and then the stream running through the middle. And this will be our Helleborn woodland border, which is really taking shape now anyway. So we've got to sort out the exact planting for these borders here, and then we'll see how it progresses. Well, I wasn't going to actually start on this until next year. However, I've been given a rather large, well-established rhododendron shrub, and so I'm going to be planting that into the back of this border. So I need to actually make this border, dig in some nutrients, some drainage, get some, I've got some old Christmas tree choppings, which is slightly more acid, which I can put in and dig into the ground, which the rhododendron will like. So I'm going to crack on making this larger border here, and then I'll see how much time I've got, whether I might start shaping another few bits of the garden before winter really sets in. But now I've got to get this shrub into the ground, so I've got a lot of work to do. Well, all I've done now is I've prepared the hole. Let's see if I can get that rhododendron in there and get it happy. Well, I've not finished digging the border yet, still a fair bit to go, but I wanted to get this into the ground as quickly as possible. It's now been out of the ground for about 3 hours, so it really needs to get in the ground. I'm now going to get the watering can, give it a very, very good drink, fill out any voids, so the water will take the soil down through any voids, and hopefully it's going to live to fight another day. So very, very fine plant, and I'm looking forward to the impact that's going to have in the garden over the coming years. Time to get that water. Well, welcome back to the pond area. Now, you may remember I started to build this frame a couple of months ago now, but I've now got the timber for the top here, and I've pre-cut some lengths for going along here, and my intention is that I will use one as a spacer, giving ourselves a nice just over ½ inch space. Pop the next one up nice and tight, get it level, and then just pop a couple of screws in to the fixing. So we'll just pop a couple in now. And another in this side here. It's very difficult with this dodgy thumb to try and hold a screw, but there we go. And that will be how it spaces. all the way along. So I'll get on with that now. Well, that's this little boardwalk decking done beside the pond now. You'll notice also I put in just a little protective board here just to stop any movement into the glass of the greenhouse, because I don't want that getting broken. But that's just pinned down, and the whole thing now is looking quite strong and stable, just enough for me to come along and do the pond maintenance that I'll be needing to do. All in all, quite pleased with this. Got to get it stained down, and I'll put this little fence up here as a little barrier for if we do have any little people round, we don't want them falling into the water. Time to I've just finished the last bit of rendering sand and cement wise for the actual stream. That's all done now, so I'll let that go off a little bit, and then we're going to do the waterproof seal on it. But we're all the way top to bottom now, and quite pleasing it is as well. And then the pond is now looking quite pleasant. I'll just put some turfs in at the back for the animals to enter and exit the pool. I've had to leave just that little space at the end of the boardwalk there. That's where the electrics have got to come out of the pond and be fitted through into the greenhouse. So generally all taking shape very nicely, and I hopefully will get the pipe in for the pump this week, and then we're going to be up and running. How lovely will that be? As this all starts to settle in and take shape, I've got to make sure that I keep the encroaching grass and the weeds down on here, because I've got a lot of work to do just to finish off the top of this border and to actually get the plants out later to finish this off. So I've got to keep on top of this, and so where the grass is just settling itself through, we've got to take this out. We can't afford it to be encroaching on the other plants, so I'm just chucking all this into the wheelbarrow, and this will find its way onto the compost heap. And then I'm going to bring some more multi-purpose compost mixed with some topsoil and replenish this area here. Just going to make sure we get a lot of this out, because I want this to be quite a nice looking edge here. It will naturally fly itself. We've got a rather nasty dandelion down in here, so we need to get that one out as well. I'll get this right out of the ground. And there's just a hell of a lot of root there, so I think we'll put all of that down to compost. Well, that's all I can get done out here for one day. The light is now going on me, but generally a vast improvement on this area here, and I'm very, very happy with that. So as the light is going down, I think it's time I took you indoors and showed you inside the greenhouse. Now we've got some power in there, and I've got some light. Well, welcome to the newly lit greenhouse. And so I've got my hanging baskets that are still doing their business, so to speak. My geranium pots up and down here, and we're going to keep these going through the winter, give us some nice colour and some warmth and some happiness over these rather dark and dreary winter months. Now, I managed to get this strip light here from the local Home Bargains for just £6.99. Now what a bargain that is, because it lights this place up fantastically and allows me, when I come home from work of an evening, to come down here, potter around, water the plants that need watering, tidy up, have a bit of a clean up, and just to be with these beautiful plants. So I'm very, very happy with that. So the electrician came down, he's put in a double waterproof plug socket over the back here, so I can play the radio, I can run the pump For the stream, I can have the heater on if I need it on, and I can have the lights on. So it's a really, really useful thing for this end of the garden. The great thing also is that when I'm working in the vegetable patch, and if I need to use the strimmer or the rotavator or various other items of garden equipment that run on electricity, I can now just plug in to the greenhouse and work in the vegetable garden. So I'm very, very happy with all of that. And today I'm back in the greenhouse. Oh, let's grab a chair. And I'm putting some of my wallflowers into plugs, some more of my wallflowers into plugs, and we're going to get these plants growing on ready for next spring and the early flowers they will give us. And I've got probably around about 400 to get planted out, so there's a lot to do, but all I'm doing is I'm just using my trusted plant marker and then lifting individual plants if I can. Teasel roots away. Let me just get those out into the soil here, and they will grow on in these little plugs. And all I'm doing is just taking some of the compost from here and just topping it up around the top of the plug. Then when we've got a tray nice and full like that, we're giving it a bit of a water. Just get the spray lance here. And just spray a little drink onto these plants so they get a nice good start into these new plugs. We'll just keep an eye on these over the next few months before they get planted out outside. Well, that's those few pots completed with some of our Scarlet Bedder wallflowers. And back at the bank of the stream, where I'm going to be planting some bulbs for colour in the early new year. So we'll have some nice tulips at about Easter. So the ground, as you remember from a couple of weeks ago, is well freshly prepared. So this should be nice and easy to plant in. You get a nice plug out there. And with these tulips, I want them fairly deep so that we get nice strong stems. And I'm going to plant them into nice groups and just release the soil back over the top here. And this will really give us a nice shot of colour early in the year, which is what we need. Remember, when you're planting your bulbs, to get them the right side up in the ground, pointy side up is always the best way of doing it, because then they will grow nice and deep. I'll now get all the rest of these in here, and I should have a lovely display next year. And I'm going to put some stakes in the ground just to mark so I know where they are. And it's actually quite a nice composition on this soil, it's not too bad at all. But we get these in just a couple of inches deep. There we go, and I've got some cloves in my pocket. Now we'll just pop those in here. So some nice Spanish garlic, and I'm going to pop them in about 4 inches apart. Oh, there we go. That's the first of next year's crop. Well, that's it. That's the end of 2020, and this first year of a year gardening. And I hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I've enjoyed making it. Now, we started the year with one old mobile phone. Since then, we've added an array of microphones and lights to hopefully make your enjoyment a little bit better. It's still fairly difficult recording outside, but it can be done. Now, what we've achieved this year has been something special. We've redesigned the front garden area completely and had those lovely wildflowers. We put the shrub border in. We've completely redesigned what was the utility garden, is now the courtyard garden, and laid the artificial grass, levelled the area out and made it a really nice area. And we were able to have a couple of our neighbours and their children round at Halloween this year, which was a really wonderful time. The back garden has completely changed, and there's a lot more changes still in planning, and I've shown you those. But we've got the new decking down on the summer house, we've got the stream built, we've got the new border with that lovely big rhododendron. We got a rose border, and how stunning that was this summer. So the main garden is looking really, really good, and is going to look even better. The vegetable garden does its job very, very well, but it's got to get bigger, and that's one of the things that are in the planning stage for the next few months. Now, one of the things that I have got wrong this year, and there have been quite a few, but one of the things I've got wrong was the lack of planning over a 12-month period. My planning was too short, and I was nipping between jobs here, there and everywhere, and didn't really get things completed in the time frame that I wanted. So going forward, I'm setting my plans out with 3 P's. Firstly, planning. I'm going to put a plan out for the 12 months on a monthly basis, so I know what I'm doing. Second P is for planting, and there'll be a planting scheme set out for the 12 months. Planting will also cover harvesting. And the third P is for projects. And the various projects that I've got to do will be given a time frame. I will start that project, finish that project before moving on to the next one, so that everything is completed within its time frame. Then I'm going to be far more organised. And the programmes that I put out to you next year, there will be 12, one for each month, will be based on those 3 P's. And hopefully, if I can work out how to do it on YouTube, they'll be set in chapters. So if you just want to go for the calendar section of what you should be planting and harvesting, you'll be able to pick out that section of the programme in a chapter. Or if you want to go for the projects, you could choose that, whatever. Or you might want to watch the whole thing, who knows. But we've now come to the end of 2020, and it just leaves me to say thanks very much for being with me on the journey. Got a little glass of the old fizzy stuff to say goodbye to 2020 and hello to 2021. But at this point, it just leaves me to tell you to stay safe, be kind to each other, happy gardening, happy new year. Cheers.